How's it going, everybody? This is our first Changemaker podcast. Friends, fans, community. We have an amazing, beautiful guest here with us, and I want to just give her props, give her wherewithal, and just we're gonna have a great time right now. So let me introduce myself. I'm Perales. I'm the CEO here of Changemaker High School, the K20 Changemaker campus. But let me really get to the issue at hand here and our guests. So, Augustina, welcome. Thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so happy to have you here with us. I have this kind of amazing bio that was provided to us here. So let's see. So here we are, folks. This is Augustina. Augustina is born and raised with humble beginnings in a Mexican-American household here in Tucson, Arizona. Augustina was one of the first in her immediate and extended family to attend a university. She attended college at Worcester Polytech Institute, WPI in Worcester, Mass. As a Gates Millennium Scholar. Watch out. She received a BS in Management Information Systems and Industrial Engineering in 2009. Augustina worked in Boston until 2013 as an infrastructure implementation manager for Hanover Insurance. But in 2014, she began working in IT and engineering here in Tucson at Intuit.
Yes.
So returning back home. So Augustina is actively involved in mentoring high school students in Avid and teaching innovation techniques and best practices students at Imago Dei Middle School. She enjoys connecting with other IT engineering professionals as a member of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, SHEP. She is working to create a lasting impact in Southern Arizona as the first Latina woman of color to serve as the president of the Junior League of Tucson, an organization dedicated to developing the potential of women and training women to become civic leaders in our community. She is the current acting president of the Junior League of Tucson and has been around in the Tucson community for over 87 years. We have 87 years of the Junior League. Agustina's life motto, si se puede, never forget where you came from, but never lose sight of where you're going.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Impressed.
Oh,
Impressed.
It's so weird hearing that. Like, oh my God.
No, yes, we have to take the kudos. We have to take it.
Oh, it's hard.
We have to do it. So, so that's your bio, Augustina. And you know, when we were talking about, you know, putting this together, putting this first podcast together, we really were talking about, we want to know people's journey. Most folks talk about the end product, right? We've accomplished all of these things, but really, it's about this journey. Right, so let's do a deep dive here.
Yeah.
Who is Augustina? Where does this story begin?
Yeah.
What are the ups and downs?
Yeah.
Tell us who and what have you been able to accomplish?
I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. Oh my God, like the very shortened version. So I grew up in a kind of, I guess I call it a broken household. Pretty much from when I was born to age 13, my mom raised me by herself, and so she worked multiple jobs to make sure that the lights were on, that we had food on the table, while my dad was, you know, dealing with some mental health issues and stuff that he's going through. Also, stuff that my mom also has, but she kind of just had to pull up her pantalones and do it, right, and figure it out. She had always told me, she said, you know, look at this person. You see how successful they are? That's because they went to college, and she's like, and that's not something that we've ever done. So she always instilled in me at a very young age that you are going to college. It's not even a question. Like, it's not even a question you're going to college. But I didn't know anyone around me that had actually gone to college at all. And so even though she preached it and told me about it, I still didn't have an example of someone to look up to. Or at least someone that I knew at the time. I mean, my teachers and everything like that, they had degrees, but I didn't know that they had degrees at the time, right? So I think I was a really, really shy kid. In middle school was like rough. It was a real rough scene for me. And I think I kind of blossomed and came into my own in high school. Okay. And I was super involved in activities, clubs, all sorts of things. And that really was, I think, because when you grow up with very little opportunity, when something comes to you, you just kind of want to latch on. At least that's the pathway and the direction that I kind of went. And so I went about applying. I knew my mom and I knew my dad. I knew that I was either going to end up in a ton of student loans, or I needed to do really, really good in school so I could get a scholarship. And so I really, really tried and you know, stuck to it and had my nose in the books. And I ended up, like you said, being a Gates Millennium Scholar, which was truly the biggest blessing. I can't explain to you how wonderful that scholarship program was, and what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation did for the students that they did from the 20 years. It started in 2000, and the scholarship program it will end in 2020.
So direct shout out to Bill and Melinda Gates
Yeah,
Foundation for that
hey,
program,
exactly.
right? For all of these scholars.
Oh my gosh.
Here's an exemplar of somebody
Yes.
who benefited,
Oh,
completely
absolutely.
benefited from that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. And it was actually, I saw on a video, not to digress too much, but I saw, I don't know if it was on 2020, I forget what special it was on, but they interviewed Bill and Melinda Gates. And it was actually, I was actually part of a social experiment, and I didn't know about it, but the whole idea was, if financial, situation is not a hindrance to a student, will they achieve at the same level as a student of privilege? And the results came back swimmingly, even more so that the students that they were able to give the scholarships did as well as those students of privilege, if not better.
Wow.
And so the graduation rate was through the roof for all the scholars and through the program. And so anyways, it was just a true blessing. That's all I can say.
So you're talking
Anyways,
about programs that
Yeah.
you were able to be a part of. And
Yes.
Putting yourself in the book. Was there a person, for the folks who are watching, right?
Yeah.
We have some parents, we have some students that are going through that right now.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Were there specific individuals that you said,
Mhm.
I'm going to latch onto the opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a person who was a mentor or a guide, or saying, go right instead of left,
Yeah.
or watch out for that cliff?
For sure.
Whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Were there people like that you looked at and you connected with?
Absolutely. I think a lot of my teachers in high school were super supportive. I think it's really important to have a really good guidance counselor that can help her. I didn't even know about the scholarship until she presented me the scholarship. Hey, this exists. This is out there. And so having that strong individual being there, being like, hey, I want to help you. And she knew I was super interested. I kind of told her my story, and she knew that, listen, this girl has, she has no money, and she's going to need as much help as she can get. Mm-hmm. So that, and then I was a part of, it's called the Metropolitan Education Commission. It was called the Youth Advisory Council Tucson Teen Congress, literally the longest name of the book. I believe it's still around, it still exists, but her name was Fran Embry Seneschal. And she made a huge difference for me. And she helped run and coordinate that Tucson Teen Congress, and we met downtown, and she was actually one of the individuals that helped write a recommendation for me for that scholarship. So she really helped to be like, hey, listen, you got this, regardless of what your adversities are, whatever is going on at home. And she knew that there were some things going on at home just by like my behavior and stuff. She's like, you got this, and she would check in on me. And I think having somebody like that makes all of the difference.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
So then what I'm hearing here is that you had that encouragement, support from home, right? From your mom saying, you got to do this.
Absolutely.
You got to make this happen.
It was a non-negotiable.
You had these opportunities at school, and you took full advantage of all those opportunities.
For sure.
And then you went outside of school to
Mm-hmm.
look for that additional support
Yes.
to figure out this maze of opportunity and possibility.
Yes.
And so shout out to all those different folks who
Yeah.
made that
The
happen.
support system.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you had to create that support system.
Mhm.
It wasn't this like bootstraps, I'm going to take care of it myself, I got this. It was,
No.
I need to go out there and find these folks and these programs.
Yes, for sure.
Wow.
For sure. So, anyways, I ended up going to college super far away in Worcester, Mass. And it was a really difficult time for me, actually. My freshman year was horrendous. To be completely transparent, I mean, going from never leaving Tucson, Arizona, to then all of a sudden living all the way in the Boston area. Oh my gosh. Climate change, culture change, everything was so different. And then having to actually study school came somewhat easy to me, but now all of a sudden you're in engineering, you're doing, math, you're doing differential equations, vector calculus, all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And so, it was hard, but once again, you had to build my own support system out there. And that was something that I had to do. And so, but college, especially going into engineering, it's a whole nother field. I was actually just talking to somebody, and I said, I feel like it's a mental test of strength, right?
Yeah.
Going into that field.
It isn't just what you know, but being
Right.
able to, again, navigate through that new reality. I mean, the stereotype is it's a very male-dominated field.
Right.
So
right.
what did that look like in navigating that kind of interface where all these folks who are kind of expected, right?
Yeah.
Versus they already have the label, and
Yeah.
they just have to finish the process. Right?
Yeah. Well, so the school at the time, I think the percentage has gotten a little bit better, but at the time was 80% male. 2% what we would consider a minority. So 2% meaning African American, Latino, and Native American. 2% of all of the school was of a minority. So all of those three equaled 2% of the school.
Wow, okay.
So it was very Caucasian male, dominated at the institution, but that was okay. I almost feel like that having that really kind of set me up for the career that I would end up being in, right? And so, not to say that it didn't come with its hardships and I'm going to use that word again. It's a buzzword, privilege, and some of these things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this existed, or it just felt like a whole different world because I wasn't used to. Whether it was culturally or whether it was tangible things like the technology and all that cool fun stuff, I didn't have those things. And so having to kind of navigate around that and because at the end of the day, I was still getting the same A or the same B or whatever that grade was. I was still in that same class with those students. And so I had to figure out how to navigate my way with the lack of maybe technology or support system or having, my parents pay for this, that, and the other and have fun stuff to be able to do on the weekends.
You had to be innovative in your educational process, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I mean, in the engineering field, that's a must. Yeah. But you had to apply that just to going through the
life.
process.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So were you one of those kiddos back then who was coming back home and seeing family and then going back to Boston, like I don't want to leave. I miss home.
Gosh.
What was that like for you?
Yeah, I remember. So my freshman year, I remember. So I went to school in August. I didn't come home until Christmas because it was too expensive to fly home for Thanksgiving and whatnot. And so I remember coming home, and it felt so good, but it also felt so different. Being in this whole world. Sometimes college is, you feel like you're in a bubble and you're in this own little world, and then coming home and seeing the family and it was different because my family, I love my family, but some of them have given me, they kind of jest with me and say, oh, look at the girl that went to college, and oh, you're chingona now because you went to college, and and stuff like that. And so there was that component, but it was also just missing the home cooked food and being around family and all that stuff, and that was hard to be in that and then have to come back and mind you, come back to weather that was, I don't know, like 60 degrees difference. Remember Tucson, right? We're like 80s, whatever. And then coming back to Massachusetts and it was snowing and it was like, oh my gosh. So it was a little daunting at times.
Yeah. And you stayed in Boston after graduating.
So
what was that decision like of like, okay, I'm graduating, life is starting here in this new way.
Yeah.
What's the decision-making process for you? Like, going home, staying there, going somewhere else?
It was actually really hard. So I will say this. So when I graduated in 2009, right before the fall, we had the whole economic downturn.
Oh yeah.
And that was super difficult. And so my dad was going through some health issues, and so I declined some of my job offers back in Massachusetts at the time in 2009 when I graduate so that I could come back home. I came back home. I had interviewed at companies here, and everyone was on hiring freezes. I couldn't find a job back home, and so I ended up working at a company called AFNI. It was a call center. They did third-party support for a mobile company at the time.
This is right after graduating.
This is right after graduating.
So you're an engineer.
I'm an engineer with an engineering degree, IT background, and I'm coming back home and I'm working at a call center.
Wow.
That was probably the most humbling, but one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And I tell people this sometimes because you have to learn about customer service, right? Learn about customer service and learning about how to deal with people, but also realizing like, hey, just because I have this background and I'm working with all these other individuals that, maybe don't have the type of background that I have or come from different worlds, it was to be immersed in that was not just humbling, but I actually keep in touch with some of my friends that were in my class from that because it was just a very real environment, and so that really helped me. In fact, anytime I call customer support, I have sympathy for what they're going through. I'm like, okay, I'll try to get my issue done really quickly because the call handle time. I know you get rated on that, and so really, really good experience. But anyways, I had a connection with a family friend that worked at a defense company in town, one of the biggest employers in town. And so I worked for them for a good about 6 months. And then in 2010, I got a call from the COO of the company one of the companies that I had turned away my offer. He said, "Hey, listen, we understand that you're finding a hard time finding a job back in your area. We want to fly you out and we want to have you interview." His name is Greg Tranter. Shout out to Greg Tranter. He's now retired and doing wonderful things with his life. But he gave me kind of like my second life, another chance at getting into my field, because even when I was working at that defense company here as a contractor, it wasn't in the field that I needed. And in technology, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Oh, wow.
In my mind. And so I was then going to be in competition with the class of 2010, and so I knew I needed. So the short of the story is I moved back briefly for not even a full year, and then I ended up moving back to the Massachusetts area so that I could have a career.
Wow.
I could have a job that was going to give me that technical experience.
So you came home. You did the thing.
Yes.
You went, got the degree, came home. I'm educated. I'm ready to do this. I'm going to represent Tucson. And it was like, it's not working. It's not happening.
Man,
I gotta
was so
go.
crazy. It was the crazy.
Wow.
I think it's right. The class of 2009 is still the class that is in the most debt to date, because of the economic downturn that happened. And so I knew that I had to take. This was a golden opportunity. I felt so silly that I had moved back, and then now I'm moving back again. Like, what is this, like, back and forth? But it was one of those pivotal moments where it was like a fork in the road, either this way or that way. Where is my life going to be if I do stay in this position? Or where is my life going to be if I do get out of my comfort zone and end up moving back? And what is that going to look like? And so that was a whole, it was a great experience working at Hanover Insurance.
So it sounds like,
But-
again, another, the pattern is there, right?
Yeah.
Like support from home,
Yeah.
right? Taking advantage of all the opportunities that
Yeah.
present themselves,
Yep.
and then going outside of that and making those connections outside
Yeah.
so they can keep going,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that a lesson, folks. This is what it takes, right? You got to do this.
Yeah. So anyways, I won't go too much of my story, but yeah, that means so I worked at Hanover, and then I actually had my own health issues that happened. And so I ended up moving back home in 2013. And so when you get sick, you realize there's no place like home. And so I moved back, and thankfully I was able to stay on as a contractor for the Hanover Insurance, that company that I worked for. And then it was sort of like, okay, well, we're going to potentially need to part ways. This role is kind of moving out, and so we're not going to. And so then I started looking for roles here, and so I ended up landing a role as a contractor initially for Intuit with Tech Systems. Shout out to Tech Systems, also gave me my third life, right? I mean, and so I was able to, and a lot of the companies now are doing the try before you buy, right? They want to see how your work ethic is, and then they'll hire you on full time and you get all the benefits and the insurance and all that other fun stuff. And so I was as a contractor for Intuit for a couple months, and then they were like, okay, we want to hire you on full time. So I've been full time. I will be a full time employee with them going on this fall for 5 years. So so it's been Intuit's been a great company. I've gotten a lot of great opportunities, and I've been able to stay at home with my family, and so it's been very interesting. But then it's like, you go on LinkedIn and everyone's like, hey, we have an opportunity in Phoenix, or we this, that, and the other. And so it's like, just trying to wait, where am I at right now in my life, and where do I want to be? And so figuring out what that is, navigating that. All sorts of navigating, always navigating.
Always navigating. So kudos to you
Thank you
for that navigation.
Yeah,
right? Because there's plenty of folks who will stop halfway or give up. Right? So what kept you from saying, I can't, this is too hard, too much, forget it. What, I need to do something else. What kept you dedicated to that which you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think truly, if I'm to be honest, it's two things. I think I never wanted to disappoint my mom. I know all of the effort and all the work that my mom put in to making sure that she gave me everything that she could. And a lot of times it wasn't a lot, but she gave me what she could. And so I never wanted to disappoint her. And I think the other thing was, I had little cousins, I know, looking up to me, and just other, I wanted to be able to say, I did this for if I'm ever blessed to have children. I don't have children right now, but, just kind of one of those things where, like, I felt like, God, I've come so far. How am I going to give up on myself at this point? And there were multiple opportunities where I wanted to throw in the towel, even in college, and wanted to be like, you know what, I'm going to transfer to the U of A, which is also a wonderful establishment. But I was like, you know what? I have to make my bed and I have to lie in it. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I just have to. And so, and trust me, there were so many days where, like I said, I wanted to throw in the towel, but altogether, I think it was just like, I have to do it. I have so many people kind of looking up to me and kind of rooting me on, and so like that's where I think that came from.
Wow. And it's all paid off.
Yes, it has. No, it actually has. I can't lie. I am blessed, and it has paid off.
Wow.
No, yeah, for
Amazing.
sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's transition here.
Okay.
And talk about the junior league.
Yeah.
So tell us about the junior league.
Yeah.
How did you get involved?
Yeah.
How did you get to the position of being the president of the junior league of Tucson? Like, tell us that. What does it take?
Yeah.
Right. What do we need to know? What do folks out there need to know? Right. The future. JLT members that are coming, they're their chiquitas, they're growing up, right? They're on their path, right? And this is an opportunity that they should think about in the future, or even connecting now. What
So when I was talking about how when I moved back to Massachusetts, a lot of my friends from college had ended up moving away, and so I wanted a way to be able to, sometimes it's hard after college to make friends and to meet like-minded individuals, and so I joined the Junior League of Worcester, Mass. That was my first organization that I joined, and so I joined there, and basically it's an organization that really we developed the potential of women, and so whether that's connecting women to volunteer opportunities in the community, or training them on local issues that the community is facing. Red for Ed. What propositions are we voting on? In the fall. What does all of that mean? And so training women, and also really encouraging women to step up and be community leaders at the forefront. Mm-hmm. And so that was something that I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like sign me up. And so I joined. And then I ended up transferring to the Junior League of Boston, and then transferring to Tucson. And so really, the pathway of getting to be let me put it this way. I think with my background, I never considered myself presidential. I know that sounds weird, but I don't feel like I look presidential. I don't maybe have a presidential vibe. Sometimes I'm a little loose cannon, if you will. I'm trying to taper it down for all the cameras, but and so I never thought I was going to be the president. And so it literally just I don't want to say that it just happened, but you step up for certain roles. I stepped up to be the secretary. Did not want to be the secretary. I cannot take notes for the life of me, but I was the secretary on the board. Mm-hmm. And then I became the vice president of marketing and communications. I don't know anything about marketing and communications. Nothing. Sorry, marketing and operations. I was like, what is this? But you get into these roles and you just count, once again, the constant theme, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Stepping outside and be like, you know what? I don't know anything about that. And that if that scares me, that means I want to do it, right? Yeah. Right? Your dreams have to scare you a little bit, mm-hmm. right? So stepped into that role, and then before you know it, I was like, well, wait a minute. I know about the operations of this organization, and I know about X, Y, and Z. Why wouldn't I be fit to be the president of this organization? Mm-hmm. And so I asked myself that question, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply. I'd never applied before, and so I was like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'll never forget when I got the call from the late Rebecca Salcedo. She's since passed, but she called me and said, hey, we would like you to be and I remember I was driving. It was the day before my birthday. I was driving on Broadway, and I was like, oh my God, I had to pull over because I was overcome with emotion. Wow. Because I couldn't believe that I would be in this position. Mm-hmm. Specifically because I had known that there had not previously been a Latina woman of color as the president's organization. I didn't even think I had a chance, to be completely honest. I know that sounds so silly. We're in 2019. At the time, it was 2017. And I don't think it's been like that on purpose. I think that a woman of color has not applied for that position in the past, in recent history. And so I think who was I to step into this role? I mean, a lot of the women in the organization maybe don't come from backgrounds that I come from. Mm-hmm. But why am I not? We're in a new time. We gotta change. We gotta change things up. So, anyways, sorry, that was a super breathy answer.
No, it's not. It's beautiful. Okay. It's about becoming visible. Really, I mean, that's what I'm hearing. That you're talking about. We need to become visible. Yep. We need to get outside our comfort zone. Yes. We need to put ourselves in those positions in front of individuals that maybe would not have seen us before. Mm-hmm. Right? That's powerful. So what does that mean? What does that mean to be the first Latina woman of color as president of Junior League? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, first of all, it's an incredible honor, but for me, it means a couple of things. It means that we have a long way to go. And like I said, I don't think it's because anyone in our organization would not want a person of color. I think it's that the opportunity did not present itself in terms of people maybe wanting to be in that role or being in charge and being visible, as you said. But I think it also means that other people in the organization that may be of color can say, oh my gosh, this individual's coming in, she's potentially moving and shaking, which is really the goal, right? To make people just a little bit uncomfortable, but also feel embraced and feel like they're supported and feel like they can grow in the organization. And that's really the culture that I want to foster. We have a diversity and inclusion initiative that we are spearheading. It's a 5-year plan, and it's really around bringing awareness to our members, but really saying if we want to be out there at the forefront in the community, helping, which our issue area is educational readiness, and making sure that our youth are ready, to learn in school and whatever surrounds that. We need to be able to serve the community. We need accurately and correctly. We need to be able to educate ourselves on what that means and be able to serve our diverse community. And so we need education, we need awareness, we need all of that for our members to be able to then go out and do that work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
Huge. I'm like, oh.
That's a huge, I mean, it's big. It's big. I mean, it's no small feat, right? I mean, we've seen from, the philanthropic giants like Bill and Melinda Gates and others, Zuckerberg, Chan Zuckerberg Foundation and others who have really stepped up in that arena. So to see the junior league say, we're stepping into that arena, we're going to do that, that's powerful. That's really, really important.
Yeah.
Let's transition here a little bit and talk a little bit about STEM, right? STEM. Some people talk about STEAM and STEM, and so want to flip this a little bit because usually we're talking STEM and there's all of these initiatives. Yeah. Now, it's almost like a catchphrase, right? And so super powerful what's happening in the tech world, super powerful what's happening in the engineering space, super powerful. Like, it is transforming the world, right? For sure. When we're talking innovation, that is where a majority of this innovation is occurring, right? And it's at such a high speed. At the same time, it's kind of like STEM had to fight its way into kind of the dominant narrative, right? It was kind of on the outskirts for a long time. Absolutely. So I imagine you've seen that transition. Oh, right, for sure. Where it's a buzzword now. It's a buzzword. Right? When before it was like, oh, those are the techie kids, the needy, geeky, nerdy kids who are doing that, which was kind of like poo-pooing that the whole field, all these fields, right? It was like, oh yeah, those are brainiacs. They're going to do that, but we really don't know what they do. Right. But yeah, that's their corner. That's their corner. Yeah. Go ahead, hang out, do your thing. But now it's more of like, no, this is what's pushing us forward. Yes. As a society. That's right. Right. So, talk to us about that transition and being in the middle of that transition. Yeah. What does that look like from the perspective of being outside and wanting to get into STEM fields? Because everybody's saying, well, students need to. This is what we need to do. The U.S. needs to catch up. We're behind all these other countries. That's right. That's right. That's what the common dominant narrative is now. Yes. But before, this was never talked about. Right. It was just kind of like, those kids do their thing. And
Absolutely. I mean, I think, so technically, I am a millennial. And so I think growing up and seeing technology evolve from, using Oregon Trail when I think I was in 3rd grade to my Theo giving me a computer when I was 8, I think I was 8 years old. I think it had like 1 gigabyte or like 2 gigabytes. And that was like huge, right? And tearing it apart and then putting it back together, creating my own website when I was like in high, like that's a whole other thing. But I think the whole idea of STEM, right? It absolutely, that is the narrative. Oh my gosh, well, we're so behind and we need to make sure that we have enough engineers in our space, right, in our country to be able to compete with these other countries, China, India, et cetera. And so I think being in that, for me as a woman, specifically as a woman of color, I think it absolutely... It's very important. It's very clear that as technology continues to evolve, now we're like social media, we're the era of apps. Before it was the era of hardware, right? And then software, and now we're like apps, right? And so like you just continue to see it kind of evolve. It is super important. I just think that technology is totally, it is the future, but I think that maybe we're missing some things in in the middle, like maybe being like socially aware and socially conscious about certain things. And so then you see like the environmental piece kind of now coming to the forefront, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, okay, well now hold on, we've been very irresponsible, for this many years. Maybe we need to start figuring out let that technology that we use help us figure out ways to be able to be socially responsible, whether it's in the environment, this, that, and the other. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but I STEM from my perspective has been it's been different because I have been at that age where I've seen it evolve, and so I don't know any other way.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like the norm.
Yeah.
It's like you're seeing that this is the norm.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Absolutely.
This transition is the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? When before it kind of seemed like it took so long for something to come out into where the public could see that transition, right? It was very slow. So what do you think about STEM? Because there's some pushback talking about it's gotten so into kind of like the public space where everybody feels like, we're talking even today, like setting up the equipment for a podcast. That used to be a sound engineer's job, right? And now it's like, oh, just buy this and then download this app and then bam, you do it off your phone or whatever. Is it losing some of its edginess because it's becoming so accessible? And what are the consequences of that? What do you think, looking at it from that perspective of it's so open, it's so accessible now, in all of these different ways that it's kind of like folks almost feeling like, I don't need to go to college. I don't need to study that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do, and we're in an era of social media influencers and vloggers and YouTube stars and all that stuff. I do think to an extent, it is kind of, with everything being so accessible, I do think that things are kind of losing their pizzazz and zing. But I do think that we're always going to still need people to be super educated. We're going to need those researchers. We're going to need those people specifically in the science realm, because this is technology we're talking about. But the real credit goes out. Shout out to all the researchers and science people out there and graduate associates that are working out there to really help solve other problems, deeper problems, where you really need a specialized level of education to be in. So I think that piece is and man, and those and they're not the ones making the big bucks, unfortunately. And so I think we have that piece, but I do think having all these things accessible maybe does cheapify some things. Like you said, sound engineers. This would be a sound engineer's job. I think we're always going to need sound engineers, especially out in LA where they're making the big movies and stuff like that. But locally, maybe some of those things are being kind of outsourced, and maybe people are just kind of teaching themselves and then going out on Craigslist and kind of marketing themselves, saying, hey, this is what I do. I don't know. I have no idea, but that's how I see it. Yeah.
No, good. Because I think the dialogue, I think it's everything goes full circle.
Yeah.
Right? If we look at the early innovators, right? Turn of the century, last century, this is the previous 1900, right? We're looking at Henry Ford and Thomas Edison and all these folks. None of them had formalized education, right? They were these innovators who were just like figuring it out, right? And we're kind of almost full circle back at that space. Where people say, I'm gonna mess around, I'm gonna tinker, right? You have like, maker spaces and hacker spaces and all these things where we're gonna tinker, we're gonna figure it out. And there's kind of like full circle. So where do you think we go next? Like what would disrupt that kind of those beliefs where, those folks don't make the big bucks. These folks do make the big bucks because there's a market to purchase something that's invented, right? How do we disrupt that so that, credit is given where it's due?
Yeah, gosh. I feel like the level of tinkering and being the jack of all trades and doing these types of things on your own can only go so far. And I do think that in order to disrupt, I'll put it this way, I don't think we're anywhere close right now in our society to corporations saying, hey, listen, okay, yeah, you may not have formalized education, but come on board, because I think we're still at that, you need at least a bachelor's kind of, or associates or some sort of a certificate of some type in order to get into this type of role. You can't just have, tinkering. Who knows, maybe 20, 30 years from now, we're not going to need that, but I don't know that we're anywhere near that right now. For me, I like kind of to touch on that, but maybe a little. For me, I want to see our freaking cancer researchers. I want to see those individuals that are really moving and shaking and making and stem cell. I want to see those individuals being compensated for the work that they're doing, and they're not, man. It's I've had this conversation ad nauseum, and it gets me all like fired up because I'm like, man, they're not, and we're in this world right now where social media and these influencers and God bless them because they got to make their coins, right? That's where our money is going. These every all of these influencers now, everyone has a makeup line. Like what? And so that's totally kind of like going off on another kind of road, but I don't know what is going to make it so that things get shaken up or changed. I'm not sure, but I wanted to put out some of my observations because I do see it, and I do see what you're saying, and it is a little, I don't know, it's a little concerning in my mind maybe, and so but I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think it's kind of like to be continued.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see how things get pushed forward.
Yeah.
So I want to also let folks know that Augustina is going to be recognized. She's our honoree for our Night Under the Stars dinner here at Changemaker High School, part of the K20 Changemaker campus. This is happening October 19th. You can visit our website, www.changemakerhighschool.org, to find out more. There's tickets for sale, tables for sale, sponsorship opportunities, all that good stuff. But you're the honoree.
Oh,
you are being honored. You deserve it, girl. Like, you did it, right? You've done all of this. And so we are so honored to be able to, just showcase you
for
the
gosh.
night, right? And to really, again, give credit where credit is due, right? Because I think for so long, folks who work so hard, it's just like an expectation. Like, you're supposed to do that. And it's just like, no, you are a chingona, right? You have done it, right? So, like, what does it feel? How does it feel, right? I was watching kind of online. You put out some stuff like humble brag, right? You didn't want to kind of go there.
I did. It was
put
hard.
This out. So how does it feel to be honored and to put yourself out there to say, hey, I am pretty, hot stuff, right? I gotta pop my collar a little bit.
Oh
my
God!
That feel like?
No, okay. So so I will say that it's incredibly uncomfortable for me. Incredibly uncomfortable. So when I realized that I should have just so I wanted to just post the event on Facebook, but then I realized that people would be like, oh, she just, throwing out some event, like, what does that mean? And so I realized that I had to make myself very uncomfortable and put that out there. And it did very much feel like a humble brag. And I don't know, for me, it's very uncomfortable. And I know people are like, yeah. But it's like, it's kind of to be recognized. Like, I just feel like I did something because I wanted to do something for myself, and I wanted to change the cycle of pobreza and whatever you want to call it in my community. And so, for me, it doesn't seem like something extraordinary, but the honor is like I can't tell you how much, like, I still, like, I can't even believe it. Like, oh my gosh, like, why would I be honored? Who am I, right? Who am I? And so I put it out there on Facebook. I did feel very uncomfortable because I do feel like I am tooting my own horn, and that's never as a leader, you're on the sidelines, right? You're never at the forefront. You're on the sidelines, bringing people with you. And so, like, for me, it was just a little uncomfortable, but I did it in the name of I want this event to be successful. I want people to go out and buy tickets because it was more than it had nothing really to do with me. It was more let's bring Changemaker, the high school, out to the forefront. Let's talk about this inaugural event that we're having, right? And everything that is this school and the wonderful things that you all are doing here at this institution. And so it was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to make myself uncomfortable. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet, but I hope these people click on it. I hope they click on the school and they like the page and they figure all that stuff out. And that probably wouldn't have happened if I had just posted the event and been like, hey, come to this event. And everyone's like, huh? And they scroll right past it and watch some meme or video. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at. But I'm so incredibly honored. I can't even believe it. I feel like, who am I? But it is so appreciated. Wow. Immense gratitude.
The honor is ours.
Oh, honestly, my gosh.
The honor is ours. That's what this is all about, right? Identifying change makers who are out there making the things happen. I know sometimes wearing these labels, right? Putting these things on, like, just it's tough. And I totally get it. We talk about it all the time.
And the haters come through and you're like, oh,
wait a minute, how come not me? And then all that happens. But at the end of the day, it's like, credit where credit is due.
Oh, man.
Augustina, it's amazing. Your story is amazing. What you're doing is amazing. You're an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
All of these youngsters are looking. right? They're looking. They're paying attention, right? They really need role models in so many ways, right? Being in the ed space for 20 years now, I can tell you firsthand that that's what's needed, right? That's what we try to do here, and we're just honored that we're able to bring changemakers from the outside to meet our Changemaker students here, right, in our families.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for accepting, right? For accepting.
When are you going to win a Nobel Peace Prize? Stop. Don't start with me. Don't you start with me. You are out of control. You all follow, is it at ZenCons?
ZenCons, yeah.
ZenCons. You are so woke. And I'm not, this is not like a, let's like play back and forth and let's like compliment each other. Like, hey, but you're but I mean this. Like you, sometimes I read your posts and I just have to like, it like gets me ready for the day.
There we go.
Because I'm like, man, well, you gotta be woke, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate this.
Once you make it to that place, we have to reach back and say, how am I going to help? What am I going to do?
Amen, brother. Amen.
What am I going to provide?
That's right.
So that's what we're doing.
That's
what it is. Again, folks, Night Under the Stars, our inaugural Changemaker Awards dinner, October 19th. Please go to the website, www.changemakerhighschool.org. You can sign up, find out more about the event, buy a table, sponsor, get a ticket, buy a ticket for someone else, bring somebody with you. Again, you can meet our honoree here in person. She'll be there. And again, a slew of amazing people will also be in attendance to honor Augustina. Again, to showcase the beautiful work that we're doing here with our partners. And again, just to put Tucson on the map, because I think that's what's needed. We need to continue to push. There's so many good things happening, and we need to highlight every single one of them. Augustina, thank you so much for coming out and making the time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a big hug after this.
Of course. Okay. Everybody, again, thank you for following along. Thank you for engaging with us. We look forward to many more opportunities to engage back with you. Please follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. You can catch our podcast. You can catch our YouTube. We're all over the place. Find us at Changemaker High School. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a good one.